Chapter 11. Act 1.
"Come on in, Almira."
Dad called from behind his slightly ajar door. I hadn't even knocked. I guessed he must have heard me approaching. I smiled and stepped into his study. My adoptive father sat behind his large L-shaped desk. He had several comfortable-looking chairs arranged in front of his desk, but I ignored them. Instead, I perched on the end of his burlwood desk with my legs dangling over the side. I'd sat on his desk like that since I was a kid. Now that I was 18, I probably should have outgrown my childhood perch, but I disliked the stiff formality of facing my dad across a desk like he was an intimidating school principal. If my childish habit bothered my dad, he never let it show. "Hey, Dad, what's up?" I shrugged off my book satchel. "Anish said you wanted to talk with me. Should I be worried?" Dad closed the file he'd been studying and smiled at me. The warmth in his eyes chased away any fears of reprimand.
"Only if you hate novelty,"
he joked, knowing full well I craved it.
"Your mother and I have been planning something. As you suspect, we'll announce it tonight in family council."
"But you're going to give me an exclusive sneak preview?" I asked, hopefully.
"Not quite."
He leaned back in his chair, his hands forming a steeple.
"That wouldn't be fair to your siblings, but I have some specific counsel for you to consider as we begin our family discussions."
"Cool," I said, half meaning it. Dad's advice was always helpful, but often repetitive.
"Now, you may find this repetitive,"
Dad said, as though reading my thoughts.
"But just because you've heard something before doesn't mean you can't learn anything new from it. As you mature and garner experience, you'll gain new perspective and insights from the same old stories. With that in mind, do you remember why we adopted you?"
"You decided the best way to help the kingdom was to invest in its youth," I recited in a sing-song voice.
"That's correct. But why you specifically? We met dozens of children at the Children's Center. Do you know why we chose you?"
"I always thought it was the power of suggestion from my name," I joked. Lucian wasn't technically wrong when he called me princess. My name, Almira, literally meant princess. I was named after a blanket. Very classy, I know. But that's what happens when you begin life as a nameless infant abandoned on the steps of the Children's Center. The caretaker who found me was not the creative type. When he unwrapped my swaddling blanket and saw princess stitched across it in fluorescent pink script, he shrugged and called me princess. Fortunately for me, the head caretaker nixed that idea. She said princess was a name for a poodle, not a person, and changed my name to Almira. It still meant princess, but in an ancient language few people remembered. The only person who got away with calling me princess was Lucian, and that was only because I got tired of slugging him every time he did.
"We did find your name fitting for a palace,"
Dad smiled.
"But it was your actions that caught our attention. Before deciding whom to adopt, we needed to meet all the children. We used Anish Goandash's 7th birthday party as a natural way to observe the children's interactions."
Yep, you heard that right. Anish's full name was Anish Goandash, which, while admittedly fun to say, had too many syllables to be used regularly. Mom and Dad were never ones for nicknames, though. "I was only 2 years old at that party," I reminded him. "I don't even remember my actions." That's not to say I didn't know what happened at Anish's party. Like all fathers, my dad had favorite stories he liked to retell to anyone who would listen. For whatever reason, the infamous party story was one of them. Sure enough, Dad launched into another iteration of the tale with gusto.
"We offered to have the palace staff organize and cater the event, but the head caretaker politely declined. She pointed out a center with 46 children knew how to host a birthday party. That said, she was anxious to make everything perfect for young Anish Goandash. She had the common room brightly decorated, and at the center of it all was a beautifully enticing birthday cake."
Dad smiled wistfully and stared off into the distance, as if he could still see that fateful party.
The head caretaker led you children through several games and activities. Your mother and I paid special attention to how the children were interacting with Enigmatic and with one another. Most of the children were fawning over Enigmatic. The head caretaker had explained to you all who he was and why he was important. But one child did not seem at all interested in our son.
Me, I interjected.
You.
Dad agreed with a smile.
You were focused on a different goal. You'd positioned yourself right at the periphery of the game, so you were closest to the cake. As the party activities progressed and moved around the room, you always made sure you were at the optimum angle to that cake. Now you weren't aggressive about it, just calculating.
Dad clarified with a finger wag.
If you'd pushed any of the other children out of the way, this story would end quite differently. You stayed consistently but politely focused on your goal. The moment the caretaker announced it was cake time, you were, of course, first in line. You waited patiently while Enigmatic was given his slice, and then it was your turn. We watched your happiness blossom as you received your piece of cake. I remember distinctly thinking, this child is cunning and clever in a humane, understated way. Then you took the first bite.
And it was disgusting, I said on cue.
Your facial expression certainly said so.
He chuckled at the memory.
I'm sure it was a lovely applesauce carrot cake, but for a 2-year-old expecting a sugar rush, it was undoubtedly a letdown.
And that's why you chose me? I asked with an incredulous chuckle. Because I was antisocial and obsessed with cake?
No.
Dad leaned forward, his tone shifting from nostalgic to earnest.
We chose you because you moved on from the disappointment. You made sacrifices to be first in line for that cake. Because you were on the fringes of the activities, you ended up with the least colorful party hat and the smallest toy. Those things may seem inconsequential to you now, but I can assure you, they were major sacrifices to a small child. Yet you endured those sacrifices in exchange for the sweet promise of a frosting corner.
Only to be met with the harsh reality of carrot cake. I melodramatically pressed my hand to my forehead in an attempt to move his story forward.
The point here,
he said, looking me straight in the eye,
is your resilience. We observed the children at the center several more times. We watched to see if the disappointment of the carrot cake would dissuade you from working toward future goals. It didn't. You continued to angle yourself and make small sacrifices to accomplish all kinds of goals, from getting the bounciest ball at playtime to being first in line for a new box of crayons. Sometimes you succeeded, sometimes you didn't. But you never stopped trying.
Isn't that the definition of insanity? I joked. Trying the same thing over and over again and expecting different results? The corner of his mouth quirked with humor.
I prefer to think of it as going from disappointment to disappointment without losing enthusiasm. We chose you because of your ambition, your determination, and your grit. We knew if placed on the right path, you could accomplish great things for yourself and for the kingdom.
Dad placed his hand on my shoulder.
I'm proud to have you as my daughter, Almira. I'm pleased with the fine person you have become. You've made good choices and progressed far in developing eternal qualities, talents, and abilities.
Thank you. I felt wrapped in a warm blanket of love and acceptance. I hope to never make you doubt your decision. Dad's deep, piercing eyes momentarily saddened.
We'll never regret bringing any of you children into our lives.
He removed his hand from my shoulder.
Your mother and I have made it our work and our glory to help all of you reach your full potentials and find lasting joy. But your journeys will not always be joyous.
He warned.
You and your siblings are about to open a new act of your lives. In this act, you will all experience disappointments, failures, and heartaches. You may begin to doubt yourselves and our love for you.
Wow, great pep talk, Dad, I thought sardonically. His lip quirked. Had I accidentally sent that through my link?
I know you grow tired of repetitious teaching, he continued. But there are 2 things I want you to never forget as you progress through your journey, Almira. First, our love for you is unconditional. It isn't influenced by your failures, your successes, or your circumstances. It is there for you when you are sad or happy, discouraged or hopeful. It is there for you whether or not you feel you deserve it. It is simply always there. Secondly, those who keep trying cannot be defeated. Don't quit just because life gives you an occasional carrot cake. Don't allow disappointments to become stumbling blocks on your path to happiness. Keep moving toward your goals and believe in good things to come.
I nodded, unsure how to respond to this torrent of inspirational sound bites.
Well, I think I've given you more than enough to ponder as you finish your chores this afternoon,
Dad concluded with a twinkle in his eye.
You'd better get started on your bathroom if you want to finish before dinner.
I groaned good-naturedly before sliding off his desk and giving him a hug. Thanks for the advice, Dad, and thanks for never making me eat carrot cake. I joked. I never could leave things on a serious note.
My door's always open,
Dad promised, returning my hug. I was almost out of the room when he called,
Oh, and Almira?
Yes, Dad? I asked, turning around. He raised his eyebrows at me.
I'm not bothered by the number of apple puffs that do or don't make it to the dinner table, but remember, it's the small things that reveal a person's true character.